But it's like this, though. I'm tired of folks, you know what I'm saying? Them closed-minded folks, you know what I'm saying? It's like we got a demo tape and don't nobody want to hear it, but it's like this, the South got something to say. That's all I got to say.
YouTube, what is cracking with you? It's your boy Soccer and Sneakers back in the lab with another video. This time we're going to be on that soccer. Hopefully everybody's having a great Taco Tuesday. I know I'm about to go mess with some tacos after I get done with this. Wanted to quickly talk to y'all about this MLS overrated, underrated player rankings that survey that they just released today. Apparently, they surveyed 104 players, MLS players in the offseason, and asked them who they thought was the most overrated versus the most underrated players are. Now, this was on the condition of anonymity, which I wish they just, were out with it. They would never do that, but I wish they maybe leaked a few of the players who surveyed one another, and I think that would just make for some interesting subject lines during the season. Maybe make people tune into MLS a little bit more, and just make things a little bit more fun on the pitch when guys matched up. But these rankings, right? If you look at who was ranked in the most overrated players, a lot of it was tied to pay. Now, Giovani dos Santos was the most overrated, was voted the most overrated player in the league by these 104 players. And I think he is on something like $6.5 million a year. His team finished dead last in the league last year, and he scored, let's see what he got. 6 goals, 3 assists in 25 games, and he's actually only on $5.5 million. So, there, I get it. And then on top of that, he somehow got his brother, Giovani dos Santos, on the squad as well, and he's sorry too. Giovani dos Santos last season made $2 million or so, roughly, between $2 and $3 million. And I think he's does less than Giovani dos Santos. So they licked LA Galaxy twice, basically. Second best player the second most overrated player on that list was Michael Bradley. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. Toronto FC, who's Michael Bradley's club team, played, they won the MLS Cup last year. So for 2017, Michael Bradley made roughly $6 million. They won Toronto FC won the treble last year. So the Canadian Cup, Supporter Shield, don't quote me on that. And then obviously MLS Cup. He's the captain of the team, kind of the engine of the team. And I don't really see how you can call him overrated unless you're looking at how much he gets paid, which still they won the treble. So for me, he's not overpaid. And also, if you're looking at the fact that he was one of the senior members of the United States men's national team during their World Cup run, and obviously they did not make the World Cup. All they had to do was beat Trinidad in Trinidad, and they lost. So pick your poison there. I think by them winning the treble with his club team with Toronto FC, I think he's well worth that money. And I actually just went to a CONCACAF match in Toronto when they played Tigres and won. And the stadium they were about 20,000 deep in the stadium. It was 30 degrees outside. I did not expect the stadium to be that full at all. So, you tell me, man, if they don't have that core of Giovani dos Santos, Sebastian Giovinco. There we go. Sebastian Giovinco and Josie and Michael Bradley, then I don't think they make it that far. Speaking of Josie, he's also on the list. Now, I get in debates and arguments with people about Josie Altidore all the time. I love him. I think he's a great hold-up striker, which is something Toronto is, that's kind of how they base their attack. They play the ball up through to Josie. If he's in on a through ball, he's going to try and put the ball on target and hopefully score. His finishing's not always great. We know this. But the other thing that he does do well is receive those long balls that they often play up to him, control it, and hold off the defender and allow, midfielders and wingers to get in on the attack so they can kind of mount a counterattack. I don't think Josie's overrated. You'll never catch me saying he's overrated, especially not when he put Toronto FC into the MLS Cup final on one leg. Like, I'm pretty sure, I don't know what was wrong with his ankle. I haven't read anything that said, what the specific injury was. But if you remember against, I think it was Columbus Crew, he was injured, man, and almost came off the field 2 or 3 times. Pressed on, ended up getting a goal on a bad leg. I think you could actually see him limping to the ball when they played it through, and he still managed to score. And then again, in the MLS Cup final, did the same thing, put him ahead in the final, and they eventually ended up winning. I think he scored the first goal in that game. So, he was on the national team, in the national team pool as well. And he doesn't. I mean, I'll admit he doesn't always score when we need him to with the national squad. But hey, man, that's just how it goes with a striker. You got your peaks, your valleys, and unfortunately, his valleys with the national team. But for me, he's not overrated. But he's also, one of the highest paid players in the league, and I think Herculez Gomez, who has a podcast with Max Bretos on ESPN, even said, I bet they didn't ask any DP players who they thought was overrated. These are all probably, I'm assuming, we have no way of knowing because it was an anonymous survey, but I would imagine that a lot of these guys aren't DP level players, aren't players that the team has thrown a lot of TAM or GAM at. Darlington Nagbe's he's an interesting one because he's on the overrated and the underrated list. I think Darlington Nagbe is in a better situation this season with Atlanta than he would have been with Timbers, strictly because Atlanta doesn't need him to do as much as the Timbers did. Timbers kind of wanted him to help mount the counterattacks, score goals, and get assists, whereas with Atlanta, he can kind of he can be a luxury. He's a luxury player, right? They flew the guy in on a helicopter, gave him a tour of the city, gave him a tour of the stadium, wined and dined him to come to Atlanta. And now he's on $1.5 million. He's a luxury player. He doesn't really even have to play both ways. He doesn't drop much past the midfield line when we're on defense, and he just kind of picks passes, man. Helps us attack in that offensive third. I think with Atlanta United, he's right where he needs to be. I don't think he's overrated or underrated. With the Timbers, I could see how you would say he's an overrated player just because the expectation for him was so high, and he didn't always do exactly what they need to do. But at the same time, he's pulled out some bangers of goals and crazy assists. I think his vision is just ridiculous. So. He's right where he needs to be. I'm happy he's on my squad. Let's just say that. I'm happy he's an Atlanta United player. Another player that's on the list, Giovani dos Santos. Man, apparently I haven't had the chance to watch any Columbus Crew games this year, and that's who his new team was. He was on the Galaxy last year. In the Galaxy, he was playing left or right back. He was playing defense. He came into the league as a striker, and then you move the guy to right back and then say he's underrated. Now the Crew are using him the right way, playing him in his natural position, and he's banging goals. So, that a lot of this can be attributed to the managers of these teams and how they're playing some of these guys and what positions they're playing in. Most underrated. I gotta talk about this. Dax McCarty, that guy's most underrated. For me, man, I don't think he's overrated. Whenever the Chicago Fire or his former team, the Red Bulls, are playing on TV, everybody's talking about Dax McCarty and how he, is the heart and soul of the team. He does all the small things that you don't see on the stat sheet. This, that, and the third. They play Dax McCarty up like he's the greatest player in MLS history, and I don't see it. Yes, I get he's very organized. He organizes midfields. Your midfield, and he's great. I'm sure he's a great captain, great locker room guy. I just, from the athletic standpoint, And, ceiling standpoint, I just don't think his ceiling's very high, man. Like I've seen Dax McCarty get cooked a bunch of times on the field in the offensive third, and that's just how I feel. I understand why people love him, but for me, I don't feel like I think he's actually probably overrated. And again, I think people are just tying this to what guys are paid, and I think I saw somebody compare Dax McCarty's stats last season to Michael Bradley's, and they were similar. And Dax McCarty is on $500 or $600 million, I think. And let's actually just look that up. His salary from MLS last year, his base salary was $400,000. Michael Bradley's on $6 million. I could see how, if their stats are similar, I could see how you would say he's underrated. And his teams don't win. They don't go to MLS Cup final. They don't win MLS Cup. Has Dax McCarty won an MLS Cup? I don't think so. Some guys who didn't make the list, I think they probably should. I looked at Josef Martinez's salary from last year. Obviously, he's a striker for Atlanta United. He made, I think, about $450,000 last year. And also, probably one of my new favorite players in MLS, Albert Ellis. I know I pronounced his name wrong in my earlier video. He's around the same, I don't know, between $300,000 and $450,000, somewhere in there. Neither one of those guys were mentioned. I think they're both nasty. And right now, Albert Ellis, like I said, is probably one of my favorite players in the league. I didn't get to watch their full game against DC United. Obviously, Atlanta United played them week 1, so I got plenty highlights from him in that match. But I watched the DC United Houston Dynamo highlights from this past weekend, and again, man, he's scary. Albert Ellis, he will run at you. He can run at you with the ball, make something happen for one of his teammates or for himself. I think one of his goals in DC, they played it into him. He kind of controlled it off his thigh, I believe, turned around, dinked it over the defender, and then scored a goal. Filthy. And I also saw that him and Josef Martinez made MLS Players of the Week. They were both strikers, both the best strikers of the week. And that got me to thinking that it would be awesome if they both made the All-Star team. And the MLS hasn't announced who the All-Star team is playing yet, but it'd be awesome if we could see them two running at the opposing defense. Their styles of play are completely different. Josef Martinez is obviously a striker who kind of likes to make runs, receive balls through behind the defense, and kind of just get a quick poacher goal. Whereas Elise, like I said, can make his own. He can create his own scoring opportunities, and he's good at creating scoring opportunities for his teammates. So that'd be a vicious combination. So if anybody, MLS or fans, if you're a fan of MLS, because we're allowed to vote players in, Albert Ellis and Josef Martinez for striker for Major League Soccer All-Star team this year. All right, guys, that's all I got. Appreciate y'all for watching. Please remember to comment, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want to see more content from me. All right, appreciate you. I'm about to go have some tacos. I'm out. Peace.